mes vers fuiraient, doux et frêles, vers votre jardin si beau. Si mes vers avaient des ailes comme l'oiseau, ils voleraient, étincelles, vers votre foyer qui rit. Si mes vers avaient des ailes comme l'esprit. Près de vous, purs et fidèles, ils accouraient nuit et jour. Si mes vers avaient des ailes comme l'amour. This poem is from the book Les Contemplations, published in 1856, and the poet is Victor Hugo.
Today we start in French and finish off in English. Marianne is helping me in more ways than one to diversify the whole language learning experience that I am offering to you. More on that later, so be sure to stay tuned in for what's to come. In this episode 27 of the English Coach podcast, the third in season 2 and the first of perhaps 4 episodes in a new poetry series, we'll be focusing in parts on the melody of language. This is not to be taken lightly. This series will help you to be more receptive to these flows and can make a world of difference between understanding, being yourself understood, or not at all. For this series and this episode, we take a small step away from the sometimes dull and monotonous drag of the language drill. We take a step away from the grammar puzzles, away from the abstract and the automated, and give ourselves the space to learn to perceive and hopefully articulate the rhythm of language that lives in all of them.
The second poem I would like to read for you today is Le Dormeur du Val by Rimbaud, and it was published in 1870.
Take 2.
C'est un trou de verdure où chante une rivière, accrochant follement aux herbes des haillons d'argent, où le soleil de la montagne fier, lui. C'est un petit val qui mousse de rayons. Un soldat, jeune, bouche ouverte, tête nue, et la nuque baignant dans le frais cresson bleu d'or. Il est étendu dans l'herbe, sous la nue, pâle dans son lit vert où la lumière pleut. Les pieds dans les glaïeuls, il dort. Souriant comme sourirait un enfant malade, il fait un somme. Nature berce-le chaudement. Il a froid. Les parfums ne font pas frissonner sa narine. Il dort dans le soleil, la main sur la poitrine, tranquille. Il a 2 trous rouges au côté droit.
Herzlich willkommen zum English Coach Podcast, präsentiert von trainingtree.de, die personalisierte Lösung im Bereich Erwachsenenbildung. Und jetzt dein Gastgeber, iAntonio Patterson.
I do prefer to take the people approach to my adult training, coaching, and podcast practice. Even for my whole online training practice over there at trainingtree.de, my aim is to encourage the use of the many tools at hand, ranging from independent media, human interactions, formal and informal classes, paper notebooks, language apps, art, personal hobbies, and reading, that all play their part in enriching our overall language learning experience. Still, the aim here is to keep it organic and naturally receptive to context and purpose, as it quite likely differs in every single language exchange. Check out my previous episode 18. Most of us are learning a language to talk to people, so I will always be the one to invite you on any language learning journey to talk to people. Now, speaking of people, this poetry series is also for real people. It makes the same simple promise to help you as usual to add a splash of color and life to your learning experience. In this essentially introductory episode 27 and all the others in this series, I hope to, among other things, illustrate the power of pause, intonation, and other tools that help you to understand and articulate your target language. By the end of this episode 27, you will have been given a set of true to life tools and tips, not only having to do with poetry, but that have been shown to work for others, as well as a better feeling, aptitude, or awareness that will help you in the future. So without further ado, our guest for today, language and cultural graduate with a major in German language, master student in comparative literature at the Freie Universität Berlin, Ms. Marianne Idrach. Okay, so fantastic. Marianne, you are here today again in studio, and I am so happy to have you. You were nice enough to share with us two poems, actually, that I found quite interesting. I will admit, I don't know if it's the nicest or most politically correct thing to say, but I really do enjoy the sound of the French language, and I could recognize a wonderful rhythm of the poems that you read. What also was useful to me was the fact that you explained what these poems were about. And as you know, I am trying my utmost best to get a little art into this learning space. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you for having me.
Of course, of course. All right. Well, our goal for today, in approaching that topic, the first question that I'd like to ask you today, specifically, how exactly did you learn English? For example, when did you start? What was your experience learning and developing English as a second language?
So I began in school like everyone else, and I was really, really bad. So I had it for years, and I was really awful. You cannot imagine. And then at the university, I studied German, and I also had English language. Sorry, but I had German was my major, and English I had less hours. It was the language, but also the history, the culture, literature, things like that. And this is when I got really better, when I began studying at the university.
Right. So, if I understand you correctly, you're saying you had it in school,
Yes.
which was then normal classes, everybody says like everyone else.
Yeah.
So it would be like grammar and vocabulary and, rules,
hmm
basically. But you had a chance to use it in the university. Is that what you mean, or?
No, I actually studied it.
Ah, okay. So it was not exactly English classes in the traditional sense, but you had to study the language and the culture itself much more deeply than you did in school.
Yes, because it was a degree. Normally, it's what people study when they want to become teachers. This
Hmm.
is why it is not only the language, it is also the literature, the history, and everything.
All right. You had the normal school classes, which
hmm
I understand perfectly. And then once you got to university level, were there also classes meant not to teach you about the culture of English and history and all of that, but the language itself? Were there also language classes there?
I had it for German. We had like grammar and everything. But actually, I think for English, I didn't have language classes. What could be a little bit like that would be, for example, we had translation classes. So in these classes, we would, for example, talk a little bit more about specific points of the language and vocabulary. And we also had linguistic,
Mm-hmm.
but it wasn't really, linguistic wasn't really, it was more academic. It wasn't really about learning the language. So I would say a little bit in my translation classes.
All right. So, okay. Well, you could look at it then as English for academic purposes. Yes?
Yes, but we were translating literary text.
Right. So then that means at that level you were already proficient in the language if you're translating.
Yeah.
Yeah?
But well, I have to say, like, as I said, I was really bad at the beginning. I had to work really hard and really long
Yeah.
to get better.
Understand. All right. Well, I'm kind of pushing this a little bit because I'm very curious. I'd really like to know. I get the feeling that to be able to do that in university, uh, discussing texts on, again, history and culture, you have to be somehow deeply knowledgeable. You must have a deeper understanding. Naturally, of course, it's getting better while you work with all the texts and the books and so on. But you must have had a strong understanding, so to speak, of the language when you started. Is that correct?
Not at the beginning. In my first semester, I couldn't understand anything really. Not anything, but I was really bad. And I used to record my classes. And I will spend a lot of time listening to what I've recorded. Yeah, and this is how I got better. And I can say in only one semester, I got so much better at understanding my classes. Like, it was really crazy to see the difference.
I think that's fantastic because what you're actually saying to me here is that you applied yourself using media tools, in this case, recording, to bring yourself up to a level where you could actually work with the language, simply said. Is that correct?
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for that. Thank you for that. The next question that I have comes from something you mentioned to me, well, something you also mentioned to me earlier, and that is the fact that you used, well, not only recording, speaking of media, you used series, films. I think it was Gossip Girls you said you used to watch a lot.
It was for German.
That was for German. Okay. All right, fine. Not for English.
For English, I don't remember how the series is called. It was actually a series, I think it wasn't appropriate for my age at first.
Really?
I don't remember. It's a British series about young people who are like partying and taking drugs and everything. I don't remember the name.
Oh my goodness. Was it like rated R? R means really good.
I don't remember the name. And it was a very like popular series. Everyone watched it.
Yeah, yeah.
And it was a little bit hard at first. This one, which I don't remember the name, I'm sorry. I watched it at first with French subtitles, and then it evolved. Like at first you need French subtitles, then it depends. I then didn't use subtitles at all, but you can use the subtitle of the language.
Yes, the target language. That's what I usually tell my participants, yes.
This is what I do right
recommend.
now for Polish.
Mm-hmm.
It's really hard, but at least then you can hear what they're saying and you can hear better in a way when you read it as well. And
Yes.
then you try to do without the subtitles.
So you're saying to me then that you've been using or you had been using media before you went to university.
Yes.
Okay, that's great. That's also something that I always recommend to people, yes? Find something you like, watch it, spend some time. Another tip I usually give is if you actually know the story in your own language, it's sometimes good because, all of this is based on understanding. And if you already have an understanding of what the story is about, what is going on, then you will grasp the target language much easier when you try it in the target language.
And I think it really, people don't value series and films the way they should because it does make such a big difference in the way you talk. Because you learn different level of languages, maybe more formal, maybe less. You learn how to pronounce words, and you actually also learn grammar without using a book because it comes naturally to you.
Yes. A lot of what I'm trying to do here also with this podcast is to encourage people to sometimes step away from the pretentious. Yes. Now, what I mean by that is real language that is spoken is something that you'll get more from series. Yes, real life people talking to each other, also using a little bit of slang sometimes, which sometimes is just simply said more efficient, more effective than using high language that nobody understands. So I'm glad to hear that you say, well, you also used series. And as you know, this is not the place for us to be pretentious and try to say, well, oh, we only watch documentaries or, things like that. That's just rubbish, actually. And I won't get into that too much right now, but this is really a place where I want to encourage people to give themselves permission to relax a little bit and also enjoy some pop. You used series, and you like I like a few as well. Do you remember some more that you watched? Probably.
I've watched in English.
Yes.
Uh, I watched Misfits. I loved it.
Misfits. Ah,
I loved it.
I started watching Misfits and then stopped for personal reasons.
Re- but the funny thing is, I've watched it in English, so obviously, and then I don't remember why I saw the trailer in German or in French. I don't remember. And that girl, the Kelly, or I don't remember her name was, she has a very particular accent in English. But in that other language, I don't remember which one it was. It was so weird because she wasn't talking the same way. And it made no sense.
I don't know if we're talking about the same girl, but there was one girl there that I kind of fell in love with her a little bit. She had a very rough, I'm not sure if it was Scottish or Northern Irish accent. She was blonde. I think she had blonde short hair. Was it her?
With a ponytail?
I'm not quite sure, but I think the one that I liked a lot with her accent was Scottish. Yeah, the Scottish are Irish, strong Irish accent.
I don't know if that's the same because I think that girl was, I think, from Birmingham. I'm not sure.
I'm okay. It doesn't matter. But I also watched Misfits, and I liked it. I think I'll start watching it again because the reason why I stopped is no longer relevant. All right. Well, I think that's really cool because again, speaking of accents, my experience with learning German as a foreign language, and I'm trying to give people here tools that work. I'm trying to give real examples that people can learn from and also probably try out for themselves. It's not about giving answers as to what works all the time for everyone. It's just, tips as to what could also work for you. But one experience I had is when I came to Germany, I watched a lot of series. I used to watch also something, it's actually terrible, it's called Fleischmann. And I thought it was really cool. It's like a satire with a kind of a puppet, and he spoke in a rough way. And I thought it was really cool simply because I understood what he was saying. But now I'm at a different place now where I can actually differentiate a little bit. When I was watching my series, I started watching Dr. House. And Dr. House has a very full, I would say, authoritative accent and voice. His tone of voice in German, the German voice of Dr. House, is much more appealing to me. And I kid you not, when I listen to Dr. House, as a native English speaker, when I listen to Dr. House in English, I can't stand it because then I see him as an asshole with a squeaky voice. In German, at least, he's a knowledgeable asshole with a commanding voice. Yes, that kind of suggests that he can afford to be that way. And it's just funny because in my own language, him speaking in my language, I can't stand, but him speaking in German, I like.
Yeah, because there is also another word. Because if you take one actor, you don't take one voice, you take the actor. And when you market that series in another country, you choose a voice.
Interesting.
Also, I think what you watched first
Yes.
also influences what you like. Because maybe if you've watched it in English first for a long time, maybe it wouldn't make a difference. But since you've watched it in German first, then
That is a
you
correct
compare.
assumption.
Yeah.
That is a correct assumption. I watched it for the first time in Germany. Yeah, that is true. Yeah, so you are right. I agree with you there. That could be it.
And we also have, I also have like some funny example. It is Bruce Willis.
Bruce Willis.
Yes.
Die Hard. Last Boy Scout.
I have to make a confession. I was in love with him
Oh my
when I was
God.
young. When I was really young,
It's
actually.
okay. It's okay. It's okay. I was also in love with the woman in Fifth Element. I don't know if you watched that one.
A lot of men are in love with her, I
Oh
think.
yeah.
It's fine. But the thing is, I realized when I was older and when I could understand English, I decided, oh, I'm going to watch a movie with this actor and the original voice. And I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
I couldn't do it. I realized I was in love with his voice.
Yeah.
And so were most of French women. And actually, it is a thing. It's quite famous that especially women in France like his French voice better than the English one.
Oh my goodness. Well, I mean, we could talk about that for quite a while, but I like the point that we're on right now because it also speaks to something that I'm trying to create here. I mean, I've said it many times that this is a relaxed space. I want, I always say my people, but I mean, anyone who listens to this podcast, anyone who's interested, anyone who becomes then my people, so to speak, I want us to just relax and also build relationships in the target language. This is a space for building relationships as well. This is a perfect example of what can happen when you build a relationship in the target language. You meet someone for the first time, it's the same relational effect or tendency that drives the same thing we're talking about now, how I feel about Dr. House and how I would never feel about him in English, and how you, Marianne, how you feel about the voice of Bruce Willis, along with all the women in France, yes? Building a relationship on a familiar voice, which will be the shared language. That's exactly what I would like to see happen. In Jamaica, we say, dance a yard before you dance abroad. In English, that means dance at home before you dance abroad. In German, tanzt lieber zu Hause, bevor du woanders tanzt. Within this context, that means nothing is wrong with recognizing these flows in your own language first before you try to work with them in others. Don't be afraid to make the first steps you need using a familiar voice. For that reason, I have decided also to include some foreign languages in this English Coach podcast. I also personally like the sound of spoken verse in a foreign language, so I've opted to give stage to other languages too. There is indeed beauty to be found in the sound of other foreign languages. You are now listening to episode 27 of the English Coach podcast, where learning doesn't have to feel like work, and where I help you to help yourself not only to learn, but also to hold on to the things you've learned. This episode is self-sponsored and takes my usual relaxed, accessible, human approach to your learning experience. It is not a formal lesson. Quickly in German. Dies ist kein formaler Unterricht im klassischen Sinne. Sind Sie daran interessiert? Besuchen Sie trainingtree.de und benutzen Sie dort das Kontaktformular. Oh man, I was ranting off there for a while. Oh my god. Oh my god. All right. Do you agree?
Yeah, I agree.
All right. Now, the last thing that I wanted to ask you, I mean, this is a short one today. You've already done 2 wonderful poems that I'll most likely be using them more than once. I hope you're okay with that.
I'm fine.
Fantastic. Okay, so the last thing that I would like to ask you today, just to give some value to the listeners, what would your advice be to someone, an adult, trying, fighting, suffering, yes, or maybe willing to take on the challenge of learning a new language? I know you have some experience as a learner yourself. You have family members learning foreign languages. Doesn't have to be English, could be German, could be Polish, could be Russian, could be Chinese. Yes, you also said your mother was learning Chinese. What would your advice be to someone who has decided to take on this challenge?
Well, I would have 2 words to describe how you should learn a language. And these 2 words are fun and positivity. So you should learn something that you have fun learning. Like, for example, my mother. I'm happy she's not going to hear that because I'm going to say her age. She's 60.
Oh, it's fantastic. It's a good
And
age.
she wanted to learn English. And I told her, like, are you sure you want to learn it? Because I don't think you want to. I think you see it as something useful, but I'm not sure you're going to have fun with it. And then she told me, I've listened to you. I'm taking Chinese class. And this is because my sister is in China and she also learned it as an adult. And the second point was to be positive. I hear so many people telling me, oh, if I cannot speak that language properly, it's because it's too hard. No. If you're not speaking that language properly, it's because you're not making an effort. Learning languages, any language, is hard. Some languages are more difficult than others. But if you try to learn something by telling yourself, I cannot do it, then how are you going to achieve it?
Yes.
So this is sometimes also what I think. I'm really bad at Polish, but I'm thinking, you know what? This is my fault and this is amazing because it means I can learn it at some point.
That is true. I agree with you. And I also have an example of that. At first, when I was learning German, I was in a bar in Frankfurt Oder. And I think I had ordered a beer. I ordered a beer and then I apologized for the fact that I only speak Kinderdeutsch. And the waitress said to me, don't ever say that you speak Kinderdeutsch. Otherwise, you will always speak Kinderdeutsch. And that is so true because if I continually tell myself that this is all I can do, then I will be the one who tries hard to make that true. I will try harder than everyone else because I don't want to be seen as a liar. So, of course, I have to make that truth true, right? So I'm the one who actually shoots myself in the foot. And it's the same thing I also tell to my English learners. Never, ever say that my English is bad. Say that you're learning the language, because if you say my English is bad 100 times, then after a while you'll start to believe it and it will be enough for you to have bad English. Best thing to say is that you're learning the language. Never say that your English is bad, right? My German is not always the best, for example, but I never apologize for it. And the only perfection I promise is in my own language. But whatever the case is, it's all about self-acceptance as well and, being gentle to yourself, the same way we want to be in this space.
Yeah, and also I think if you notice, okay, my level in one language is not the best one, it's still better than it used to be, right? So
Of
it's
course.
still like a good thing. You still have to celebrate it.
Of course. Well, you know what, Marianne?
Yes.
I sense that we have many things to talk about. Yes. And I actually promised to make this one a short one. I hope that we were able to communicate some value, give some points that people can work with. Again, this is not about pretending to be able to give the answer, the ultimate answer for anything, but we can offer some tools and tips based on our own experiences, things that worked for us. And we would definitely invite you to just try them out. Yes, try them out. And of course, stay tuned. There'll be more tools and tips coming. The aim is to just listen what worked for others, try them out, and see maybe they'll work for you too. I was so thrilled to have you here as a speaker of French, reading some lovely poetry for us, right? Now, I have a small challenge for you. I would like you to say exactly this for me, for us, in French. And what I want you to say is, I invite you to be gentle to yourself and not to worry too much about the rules, because you were the best at learning a language when you were a baby and nobody could tell you anything about rules.
Je vous conseille d'être gentil et compréhensif envers vous-même de ne pas trop vous préoccuper des règles parce que c'était lorsque vous étiez un enfant, un bébé, que vous aviez la possibilité d'apprendre la langue au mieux.
Okay, I'm sorry to surprise you like that, but I think that was a wonderful exercise. You know, we gotta keep it authentic. That's also what this is all about, yes? So that's how we keep it live and living. All right, so thank you again, Marianne. I do look forward to the other projects that we have ahead of us. And I want to wish you all the best also with your studies in linguistics, is it? Or is it literature?
It's literature. I'm
Literature.
trying to write my master thesis.
You are trying. You are writing your master thesis.
I am.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I do wish you all the best with that. And keep me posted.
I will. Thank you for having me. I wish you the best to you as well, and to the listeners. I wish you to learn English
With a little fun.
with a little fun and a lot of positivity.
Okay. Thank you very much. With a small win is always a good way to begin. Feel free to check out the show notes for this episode at www.trainingtree.de/podcast. Like it if you like it, and if you don't, lie to me. Just kidding. But still, feel free to share it with a friend, post a rating, or better yet, give meaning to the things you think about the show by using the feedback form to tell me personally what you think. This will help it to help you as it's intended to do. Subscribe only if you feel like, so you know when there's a new episode available. Thanks for listening. Looking forward to hearing from you, and bye for now.